Well, welcome back for lesson number 5 of Bully Proofing Your Child with Scott Conway, PhD, GAD, with mothersraisingsons.com. Now, of course, once bullying has already occurred, very often your child comes to you upset. In fact, no matter whether your child gets bullied or not, sooner or later, your child is going to have something that is deeply upsetting to your child. It could be losing a game. It could be a breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend later on. It could be not getting a part in the school play. There's any number of things that could lead your child to being emotionally distraught, to being really legitimately upset. Now, it's very common sometimes because, we're adults, and as adults, we kind of realize there's a scale of things, and sometimes the thing that is probably the biggest thing that's ever happened to our child and our child's entire life, well, we recognize as adults is really a pretty trivial thing. So it's really easy to kind of trivialize. It's like, well, it's not that big a deal, just forget about it. But right now, it still hurts, and it really is the biggest thing that has happened in their life. And so there is a technique called disassociation. I'm going to teach you a very simple version of it. The very simple version of disassociation is how to disconnect from the emotion of something. Now, we talked about detachment and using the armor technique to not connect it in the first place. Disassociation is when you already are connected. It's already affecting you. It's already hurting you. How do you get away from that? If your child, sitting in the room crying, if something caught them by surprise, they might even know the armor technique. They might even be great at the armor technique, but it caught them by surprise. They didn't expect this, and it really hurts, and they're crying, and it's running around in their head. How do you disconnect from that? For the disassociation technique, you just imagine what it is they're dealing with, whatever the individual thing is that was the trigger. And in this case, we're going to use bullying because we're talking about bullying, that someone was saying some mean things and they kept pushing and they kept pushing and they kept pushing until maybe your child's armoring technique broke down, or it surprised them and it really hurt your child, or there's enough truth to it that it got through. And now it really hurts. So what disassociation is okay, well, go back and let's think about what happened. And it'll be easy because if they're still crying about it or they're upset about it, their brain's running it again and again. They're looping it again and again. So, all right, well, you're probably already thinking about it. So let's go ahead and think about it. Now, I want you to imagine it for a moment, just exactly the way you're remembering it, and tell me a little bit about it. Is it big? Is it small? Is it close? Is it far? Tell me about it, and just let them tell you a little bit about it. Now, that will already begin to take down the emotion, because now instead of just feeling what they're feeling about it, now they're trying to describe it. Have them describe some of the sights, how big it is, how close it is, how bright it is, some of the sounds, how loud it is, if it's voice, if they hear anything else, and if there's any other senses that are involved besides sight and sound. How did it feel? How does it feel emotionally? Where in your body do you feel that emotion? And is it surrounding you? Are you a part of it? Is it over there somewhere? And as they describe, you'll notice their emotion will tend to come down. So okay, now let's just push it away a little bit. And I want you to see it like it's on a giant movie screen. Now tell me a little bit about it on the giant movie screen. Is it still big? Is it still bright? Is it, and then tone it down. Whatever will tone it down for them. Now, very commonly, if you turn the volume down, that will help things be calmer. If you push it further away, that'll help things be calmer. If you slow it down and then you fade out the color, and what you're doing eventually is you're then shrinking it down to a widescreen television, to a smaller screen television, to like a sheet of 8x10 glossies about the size of a web browser screen, whatever the reference point is for your kid, about the size of a tablet. And all it is now, it's just pictures. And there's a written report of what happened. And now the emotion is gone. Now you can talk much more dispassionately about it. Now you can think clearly. Now you can be rational. And that is the disassociation technique. And that is one of the simplest versions of disassociation that I can teach you, of how to go from being fully connected, having the emotions be really strong and intense, and being able to step back and be able to adjust what we call the modalities and be able to separate yourself from it. So now you can look at it more clearly. Now you can think about it. And very often, especially as adults, If we use this technique to get out of some very intense emotion that we might be having, intense anger, intense pain, intense fear, and we separate ourselves from the intensity of that emotion, that very often will give us the opportunity to think much more clearly and much more rationally and be much better decision makers about whatever it is we have to do. So we're clear-headed, and that's what you're helping your child do. So if the child is deeply connected to the emotion already, then using this disassociation technique, kind of putting it out on a movie screen, shrinking it down, and just making it a little file. So you might drop into a folder on their tablet or on their computer just as a reference point. So they're not forgetting that it happened, but they're being able to step back and look at it as an observer to get back to being detached from it, like you're trying to do with the armor technique. But once you're already connected, how to set it aside. Now, this isn't the same as forgiveness. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about forgiveness. We're going to talk about letting it go. This is a way to get out of the immediate emotion. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've let it all go, but this has helped you emotionally disconnect from it so it doesn't hurt you as much, and you can think about it clearly. This is Scott Conway of mothersrasingsons.com, bullying proofing your child.